I'll go into detail about what an NFT is in this video. You'll learn what they are, why they're valuable, and how to get them, because that was our most pressing concern when we researched them. Hello everyone and welcome to Success Wisdom. In this video, we're going to talk about what is NFT and how it works for beginners. If you're new to this channel, do like and subscribe to the channel. See how rapidly they gain popularity by looking at the search data from Google Trends for February and March 2022. In fact, that's what gave me the idea for this video. We created this movie to aid others since we had little knowledge. Everything we looked up was quite complicated, but this video explains everything about NFT. A non-fungible token or NFT is a particular kind of digital asset. They are sometimes compared to digital trading cards or paintings. In essence, when you purchase an NFT, you're only purchasing the asset's rights. Non-fungible refers to anything that cannot be altered after being created. It cannot be disassembled and cannot resemble anything else, such as a Bitcoin. Every Bitcoin is equal to every other Bitcoin. How about NFTs then? They are constantly unique. They vary constantly. Additionally, a signal you just possess a small amount of knowledge. An NFT is a token that doesn't change over time. What is an NFT? If you want to get down to the details, well, NFTs are just a piece of data that belongs to an address. Whoever knows the password to that address owns the piece of data. This piece of data can be bought and sold to different addresses. The data is verified on a blockchain, so you can check the owner's history. With an NFT, this can always be tracked. For example, this CryptoKitty that sold for $600,000 is just a small URL that belongs to an address. That individual merely has a little bit of data in their possession. It is theoretically possible for whoever controls the server where the picture is typically hosted by the piece of data to alter the image. When purchasing an NFT, it's critical to understand exactly what you're getting. You are purchasing a piece of information pointing to a server hosting an image or a GIF. You should be aware that the picture or GIF might change, as well as the server. On the blockchain, you truly possess a particular bit of data, not access to the server. Not a picture or a GIF, but rather a little piece of data that links to the server. So in any way, purchasing an NFT is similar to purchasing a stock in that you are purchasing a little chunk of data that symbolizes something greater. If it's not a dividend stock, you're not buying the whole company and you're not getting any dividends. These NFT examples are some of the most well-known NFTs. If you don't want to listen to them, you may move ahead since this might become a little rambling. The following item was the CryptoPunk 6965, which sold for 800 Ethereum. The next item is CryptoPunk 4156, which sold for 650 Ethereum on February 18, 2021. The third piece was CryptoPunk 2890, which was sold for 605 Ethereum on January 24, 2021. The next item was the well-known Dragon CryptoKitty, which sold for 600 Ethereum. For 550 Ethereum, 6487 were sold. We now own a roughly 12,600 square meter block of land in the Decentraland universe. It was sold for 514 Ethereum. The hash mask 9939 is the next item, and it costs 420 Ethereum. The extremely fascinating F1 Delta car concept was sold for 415 Ethereum. Another actual piece of land in the Central Land world sold for 345 Ethereum on February 19, 2021. The legendary Neon Cat sold for 300 Ethereum. Another CryptoPunk went for 400 Ethereum. And still another CryptoPunk went for 400 Ethereum. What encourages you to buy an NFT? There are a number of reasons, but for now, the main one influencing the bulk of purchases is that investors see NFTs as collectors. Let's talk about the four main justifications for why an NFT is crucial. First off, just as Bitcoin is so well known for being the initial cryptocurrency, the first NFTs of specific founders or organizations will likewise be valued. For instance, trading cards for Pokemon are growing in popularity, and the first edition cards are the most expensive. Imagine that you own the first US currency, which likely has some perceived worth. an NFT's utility, or more specifically, the benefits it provides in the modern world, is the second aspect that increases its worth. If Elvis Presley were still alive today, he may have sold 50 million CDs. If you owned one of the shows he was in, you could watch it whenever you wanted. These NFTs would quickly become well-liked and relatively expensive due to their useful benefits. Personally, I would only buy an NFT if it had a useful benefit. I think that in the future, almost all NFTs will include this sort of capability. In return for a membership group, a regular lunch meeting, or something like that, creators will profit by selling NFTs. As an example of an NFT that is appreciated because of its scarcity or singularity, think of the Mona Lisa. Although everyone has a copy of the Mona Lisa in their house, the real work by Leonardo da Vinci can only be seen by the public when it is on exhibit at a museum. The original United States Constitution and a baseball sign by Babe Ruth are both examples of this. They are distinctive. Others could already have the vision of that universe, even if it's only an image. They just might not have Stephen Hawking's original. Consider making 3 new ones. Given that there are only 3 originals, they would be quite expensive. I found that an NFT's worth is determined by its ownership history. Which celebrity is your favorite, for example? Let's say one of my favorite actors, Robert Downey Jr., decides to sell his leather jacket and get a new one. As a result, even though he may have originally spent $200 on that leather jacket, I would now have to shell out $800 simply to get Robert Downey Jr.'s same item. With NFTs, the same is true. A collector could offer $1 million for an image of the duck that Barack Obama once had. Keeping this in mind, you should think about what an NFT really offers society. When determining its value, you should consider whether an NFT is the first of its type, useful, uncommon, and held by a well-known individual. Does spending $2.5 million on Jack Dorsey's first tweet, for instance, fall within any of these categories? Let's go from top to bottom. Has this happened before? Yes. It is the pioneering nonprofit in that field. Does it provide any assistance? No. You cannot alter the tweet or use it to advertise your company or a similar endeavor. The third is an original. Lastly, who was the previous owner of it? This is really a no. Even though this is Jack Dorsey's first tweet, it doesn't fall under this category since no notable person has yet to own it. For instance, if PewDiePie purchased my tweet after I had sent it, the answer would be affirmative. However, since it only fulfills 2 of the criteria in this instance, buying this initial tweet amounts to a wager that someone else would wish to purchase it in the future at a greater price, since holding that NFT is useless. It serves no purpose. You're purchasing it for entertainment or financial gain. The value would soar if Jack Dorsey promised the owner of that NFT that he'd see them for lunch once a month. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. How can I obtain an NFT? Is another question you might have when you join the NFT market. Because purchasing an NFT is comparable in difficulty to purchasing corporation shares and is really rather simple. As you know now, the bulk of NFTs are offered for sale on websites that are dedicated to selling NFTs, much like eBay, Amazon, and Facebook Marketplace. Since ETH is often used to purchase NFTs, you'll definitely need to have some actual ETH on hand before you can purchase a CryptoKitty or an NBA Top Shot. This might be detrimental, since if you do it incorrectly, you might lose all of your money in the transaction. Hence, transferring Bitcoin to an NFT wallet often requires technical expertise. The 4 most well-liked NFT exchanges for buying and selling NFTs are shown below: uprarible.com, OpenSea.io, NiftyGateway.com, and SuperRare.co. The first step in ordering an NFT is to create an account on that specific website. The second step is to buy Bitcoin on another exchange and then transfer it to your wallet. NFT wallets mimic every other cryptocurrency wallet quite closely, so you should be aware of that. I made a vow not to go too technical with this video, but for anybody who is interested in the technical specifics, most of them are based on the ERC-721 protocols. Usually they include both a public and a private key. Finally, you can really make an auction-style offer and pay for the item you're attempting to buy. It is essential to inquire about NFTs if someone can duplicate your NFT. An NFT, like any other piece of art, can technically be duplicated, but because each NFT keeps track of its transaction history, the original NFT address can be linked to the original creator. A new NFT might be created and linked to the same hosting address as the original NFT, or it could be linked to a different address that points to the same image or GIF. This is an important point to keep in mind. An NFT is useful because of the specific piece of data it contains rather than the image. LeBron James could make a free throw in front of 30,000 spectators just like I could at my neighborhood YMCA, but one has far more worth based on what other people think of it. LeBron's free throws are far more valuable than mine, despite the fact that I'm doing precisely what he's doing. How are you using your NFT? You may be asking where the heck you put your NFT now that you have purchased it. To keep it secure and handy for showing your friends and other people what you've recently purchased, you place it in a wallet. There are a few choices if you want to keep your NFTs online, but the ideal location to store them is on a hardware wallet like a Ledger Nano, where they can be safeguarded and kept offline. Thank you for watching. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you like this video, do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. Thank you and goodbye.